Of all the card reveals I've done over the years, this new Blood Legendary has to be one of the most exciting I've seen, and in more ways than one. It's the Omen of Lust herself, Vanrick, Lustful Desire. Vanrick is a massive fan favorite, and she's likely to stay that way owing to her two very large and enticing keywords, Storm and Wrath. Wrathblood has been at the cusp of being a really strong deck for at least 2 expansions now, and I think Vanrick could be the final piece of the puzzle. Vanrick is a 3-play.1/3 Storm that adds a Wings of Desire token spell to your hand and gains +2/+2 when Wrath is active. Her Last Words effect checks for Wrath, then adds 7 copies of herself into your deck, but without Last Words. Wings of Desire is a 0-point spell that gives an allied follower strike, deal 1 damage to all allies and enemies, with Enhance 2, give it the same effect again. At a glance, Vanrick is definitely a much needed addition to the aggressive deck that Wrathblood tries to be. Storm is generally the path of least resistance when it comes to making a card viable, and a particularly strong Storm card can instantly transform a mediocre deck into a potential top-tier contender. With both Wrath active and an evolution point, Vanrick represents at least 6 damage for 3 play points, assuming you use the 0 play point Wings of Desire. The total damage output relative to the play point cost is very impressive. Enhancing Wings of Desire brings you to 7 damage before Arias pings. 2 play points for 1 extra damage doesn't sound like a lot, but if you can clear a bunch of 2 defense followers, then you get a lot of mileage from Arias. The Enhance is a non-intrusive way to dump more play points into damage, which is always a great option to have. On the other hand, Valnareik is terribly inefficient as a Wrath generator, being only 1 self-ping for 3 play points. Wrathblood cannot afford to lower its odds of turn 4 Wrath, so this will be a key limitation to consider when deck building. Wrathblood's first goal in every matchup is activating Wrath by turn 4. For a real Blood player, turn 5 Arias is standard, which leaves turn 6 for the first Vanrick. It's really crucial for Wrathblood to have cheap sources of damage because that makes it much easier to mix and match based on the situation and get the most out of every card. At 3 play points, Vanrick has a slew of potent combos on turn 6 and 7. Keep in mind that the true ceiling for the following combos will depend on the board state, because Wings of Desire can potentially trigger Bloody Claw multiple times. Wrathblood has no issues spending evolution points to hit face, so I will be assuming Evolved Vanrick. Since Vanrick herself doesn't have Enhance, you can simply play double Vanrick to deal upwards of 10 damage from hand. Vanrick plus Razor Claw deals 9+ damage while giving you an extra play point to use on your 3rd Arias spell or Rouge Vampire. On turn 7, there's Vanrick plus double Razory for 12+ damage, or Vanrick plus Razory plus Enhanced Wings for 10+ damage. When you consider Wrath's aggressive early game and multiple instances of unavoidable damage from Arias and Noble Demoness, it's quite terrifying that Vanrick adds so many double-digit damage combos into the mix. Vanrick's Last Words effect gives you a substantially greater chance to have Vanrick again on the following turn, but how much greater? Vanrick adds 7 copies of herself to the deck. Assuming the list plays her as a 3 of and you haven't already drawn a second copy, there will be 9 Vanricks in your deck once the first one dies. For the sake of accuracy, let's assume Wrathblood is going first. If turn 6 is the first Vanrick, then we're looking at turn 7 for drawing a duplicate. You open with 3 cards and naturally draw 6 cards before turn 7, putting us at 31 cards in the deck. If we assume 5 cards are drawn by effects before turn 7, which is quite normal for Wrathblood, that puts us at 26 cards in the deck before Vanrick dies. Once Vanrick has been inserted 7 times, 9 out of 33 cards in the deck will be Vanricks. That's roughly 27% to hit Vanrick on your first draw on turn 7, and with the Nightmare Begins active, your second draw has 28% chance to be Vanrick. This comes out to roughly 48% to draw at least 1 Vanrick with your 2 initial draws. You can approximate it to a 50-50, but your odds will vary by about 1 or 2% for each additional card you did or didn't draw during the game. In practice, you still have other forms of follow-up that you could draw into or already have in your hand, such as Omniface Dark Demon. If your chance of hard drawing a second Vanrick is on its own almost 50%, that means your total odds of having more damage on the turn after first Vanrick are rather high. Not only does Vanrick single-handedly contribute tons of damage to a deck that is in desperate need of it, she also indirectly buffs many of the staples in the Wrath archetype. The loss of Strappy Werewolf and the prohibitive cost of Omnifaced have made Dark Contract underwhelming on turns 7 and 8, while Sanguine Necklace lacks the immediacy for a late game play. However, after tossing a bunch of Vanricks into the deck, card draw options become significantly more valuable even with their associated costs. On turn 7, you can open with Dark Contract and have enough play points for Vanrick plus Razor Claw, and on turn 8, you have Contract into double Vanrick. Capping off a turn with Sanguine Necklace will actually raise your odds of hitting a lethal combo by a meaningful degree, and if you're really a blood main, you've learned to take what you can get. Cygames clearly knew what they were doing while designing this card, and I think it's safe to say the players are getting exactly what they wanted. There is no doubt that Vanrick will elevate Wrathblood to unforeseen heights, just as she did when the archetype existed before the keyword over 3 years ago. If there's anything that Blood players have really been desiring from the bottom of their scarcely beating hearts, it's some real cards that do something. Valnareik Lustful Desire is the storm we deserve, but she can't do it all. She's an awful wrath generator, and she doesn't heal. The new Vanrick has just one specialty, but she builds off and synergizes with the rest of her archetype, which is the most that anyone could have asked for.